So somebody like Bobby comes into a low barrier shelter
Mm-hmm.
and he, works with resources that are available. He's able to stop using
Yes.
and he wants to get kind of moved along with life. Eventually, he's in a position where he can probably graduate out of low barrier. What's his next step?
Ideally, the next step would be a housing voucher
Okay.
and a case management team that would work with him in starting over life,
Okay.
learning how to make healthy friendships
Okay.
and not go back to what he's comfortable with kind of the street riffraff that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
making different decisions for their life right now,
Right. Okay.
And so that's ideal. They get a temporary housing voucher that's 6 months to 12 months and is tapered. So as they gain employment, as they gain life skills, they become fully responsible for their rent. It is a help, not a handout.
Mm-hmm.
That's ideal.
Mm-hmm.
The second option would be getting him into, depending on the severity of mental health issues, a group home setting
Okay.
or a longer term facility to build independent living skills now that he's sober.
Okay.
Those would kind of be the two ideal ones.
Okay. Okay. Got it. And then, on some level, at some point, he's probably getting a job.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got to push the button.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he's getting a job.
Mm-hmm.
He's building a positive future for himself.
Yes.
It's not just focused on
Yes.
things that he doesn't do anymore.
Yes.
He's making better friends.
Yes.
This
in the mental health field, the term for the entrenched defeated cycle is called learned helplessness.
Okay.
It's so where whatever the factors of their life before have been, they have this entrenched thought process and behavior pattern, maintaining the thought process that this is how it's always going to be. And so they have accepted whatever their life circumstance is, and they do not know how to change their thoughts, change their behaviors. And you'll hear stories of someone that's had a ridiculous experience, profound experience, where everything rapidly just shifted for them. And typically those are individuals that in a moment of despair cry out in prayer.
Okay. Okay.
But that's not everyone's story.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
there's the different aspects of how do you help people so that could become their story.
Right. Once people get the housing voucher, they're in their own place. There's still a fair amount of resources available to them, whether it's getting involved with a 12-step program
Yes.
or other types of counseling if they want or need it.
There are resources available.
Okay.
There's different kind of within the community, the free resources would be a 12-step program or smart recovery, which are two different things.
Okay.
Smart recovery is all about recognizing where you are and bringing different decisions into where you are so you don't stay there. The 12 steps were created in the 1930s. The initial 12-step program would have been Alcoholics Anonymous. And it is a series of thought-provoking steps that force you to look at yourself. In the 1930s, it was a good system. But then we have World War II. Then we have Vietnam. Then we have the 80s and the 90s where you have drugs coming in and you have a lot of people sober from alcohol, suddenly very scared of narcotics and cocaine and the deeper seated issues of addiction. Then you had Narcotics Anonymous get formed, Cocaine Anonymous, some of the other anonymous fellowships where it was somewhere safe to come, talk about all the horrible things you had done under the influence of drugs and alcohol, bring that to light, get a relief from your shame, and have some aspect of accountability with someone. But if you're not then going into the deeper level issues of whatever drove your addiction, you're not doing sufficient work, and sobriety or 12 steps can become the answer to all of your problems, and you're still not living that connected life. Right. When you look at kind of how the mental health system looks at addiction, the initial study done, I believe in the 60s or 70s, that was kind of the standard for how do we treat addiction?
Mm-hmm.
They put lab rats and gave them regular water
Mm-hmm.
and then cocaine water. And a lab rat in a cage quickly became addicted to cocaine water until they would
Right.
overdose on the cocaine water.
Okay. Okay.
And there's, I
Because
think,
they're allowed to have as much as they want.
yeah, they have
so-
free access to the cocaine water. They're living alone in a laboratory cage environment.
Mhm.
They'd overdose on the cocaine. They'd have a heart attack.
Okay.
Well, then someone decades later, wanting to look at addiction research and is looking at the issues and going, how do we not have an answer? And why is there not support? And we're
Mhm.
just expecting people that genuinely don't know how to make changes in their life to just suddenly
Mhm.
know how to make changes. And he looks at the initial study that every further study had been based off of this one. And he's like, well, let's do it a little differently. And he creates Rat Paradise.
Oh,
And so
right.
they create like the ideal living environment for a
Yeah.
lab rat, and they introduce other lab rats, and it's
Yep.
a community environment then. And then with just this community environment of healthy rats in a laboratory setting, they introduce then the cocaine water, and each of the rats would go try it, and they choose community instead.
Okay.
So then they're like,
Okay.
well, let's take this another level. Let's see what happens if we take a cocaine addicted rat and introduce him to the community, and we leave the cocaine water. And what they genuinely saw was the community rats
Mm-hmm.
seeing the cocaine addicted rats going to the cocaine water and walking them to the healthy drinking water and inviting them into community.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, I don't know, and I doubt they did, but I'd like to see what happens if you take an infestation of cocaine rats
Mm-hmm.
and introduce a healthy rat to that dynamic and what happens to the community.
Interesting.
I think one of the most heart-touching stories I've ever heard from a peer in the profession was he would leave the reservation,
Mm-hmm.
and in the summertime he'd come to Phoenix
Mm-hmm.
and drink and meth away.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd go back to the reservation, hang his head low, and that's what I did over the summer, and I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was several years away from the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went back to his family.
Mm-hmm.
And his family sat with him in the sweat lodge and had an honest conversation
Yep.
of, I love you.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I want to see you love you again. And it was a safe and healthy and loving family coming around him.
Yep.
And he stayed on the reservation then and got his life together. And he didn't go to treatment, and he didn't go to detox, and his family support him in that. I have another friend that is in the industry of mental health care. She's also a behavioral health tech.
Mm-hmm.
She transitioned jobs from working in a rehab setting to working with families that want to have like an intervention
Mm-hmm.
with the addict and the family.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of shop talking a few weeks ago and venting to each other, and I was asking her for some advice. And she was like, I've transitioned jobs, and it was a reality check for me, and like seeing the family that's the broken family that led to the addict's decisions to enter addiction, right? And they're trying to escape the broken family model.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm assisting the enablers of the addict. And what she was seeing was these individuals gathering around the addict. She's trying to coach a family behavior pattern
Mm-hmm.
in a conversation to assist the one trapped in addiction. And the addict goes to treatment, but still doesn't want anything to do with the family because the family's not willing to change with the addict.
Right. Okay.
And the addict stays the entire problem for the whole family.
Right. Interesting. Man, there's just so much power in good community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the senses I definitely got from talking to Bobby was just his profound kind of loneliness in life and not having other people. And
Yeah.
on some level, he equated that with, if I need other people, that's weakness.
Yeah.
And there's people who will steal from me or take advantage of me.
Yeah.
But on some level, it also just seemed like he was cutting off so many opportunities to make his life better, eventually find a way out of the homelessness that he's experiencing.
Even for me, like my family, which I'm not going to talk much about right now, but very entrenched in organized crime in the South. I'll leave it at that. Generationally, we came from Poland. They were part of the Polish Revolution that led to Prussia, that led to World War II, and the German overthrow there. And just in researching some stuff online, I came across an article that was the initial meeting underground tunnels and layers where people got together that led to the Polish Revolution. And in knowing like the horrible decisions my family continues to make, And I still, in reading the article, felt like a call home.
Mm. Mm.
And so that is something that a lot of people with the level of the cartel, street gangs,
Mm-hmm.
and they target the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have individuals with good hearts, but haven't had those experiences, genuinely not know how to help someone like that and want to, and not have an ability to. And then you have a hurt person hurting someone on accident because they're just living the life the best way they know how, and they don't understand healthy connection. They don't understand how to build that, and they don't know how to have boundaries. And those are all things that have to be taught. And it's an incredibly lonely journey of a mental health recovery, addiction recovery, homelessness recovery. There's a lot of services for the veterans, but there's still the brokenness within the system.
Well, let me ask you this question then. And this is a nice residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Less traffic noise. We can keep walking.
Okay.
What effect? I mean, you see
Don't
you
go
see
down
the
that
state
ways in this neighborhood.
no no alleys.
No alleys.
You see the mental health institutions. You see, I mean, really the cities, the homelessness shelters, all of these organizations kind of scrambling to keep up with this homelessness crisis that doesn't seem to be getting better. And in fact seems to be getting worse. And I know there's affordability issues. I'm wondering if part of the accelerant to this whole thing is just how many more drugs people are doing now than in the past, and if that's having a material effect on the level of issues that everybody's facing.
The level of turning off that those drugs allow someone to do, like fentanyl, right? Fentanyl is 100 times more potent than morphine in one blue, 50 times on average more potent than street heroin. When fentanyl began entering America, initially, you'd only hear of fentanyl addicts that had been anesthesiologists.
Because they were the only ones with access to it, and they're doing the best.
And so, like, I knew a man back east in a 12-step program who had been a nurse anesthetist, studied at Duke University, one of the best anesthesiology programs in our country. He had a 3-hour training course on addiction as a medical professional. And what that individual said is 1 out of 3 of you are going to die from this. That was his training on addiction as an anesthesiologist. I do not know if this man is still alive. He lost his license. He was doing so much IV fentanyl that they tried to charge him as a dealer. But to himself.
Oh, jeez.
Because he was stealing from his employer, a plastic surgeon, working part-time and making $200,000 a year. So he could hire the lawyer and get off those charges and just surrender his medical license and get his life together. Now what we're seeing with fentanyl is the criminal, whether it's the cartel or some of the other criminal organizations organizing to create this and put it on our streets, is they're buying the different pieces of it, putting it together, and dispensing it. When they began doing that, you see fentanyl coming into methamphetamine use at the same time. They introduced fentanyl in marijuana joints. And so they began, like advertising almost, of lacing fentanyl at very low doses with other street drugs to transfer the dependence to fentanyl. When you have someone in fentanyl addiction, it is a complete, imagine your body having gotten to such a point of walking through traumatic experiences, whatever they may be, that you're in active fentanyl addiction, you are doing enough. So morphine, get morphine for a hurt back at the ER. And then you can keep walking on a hurt back while it heals. But if you're doing 30 hits of a blue a day, that's 30 times, 100 times what you need for that back pain. And by the time someone is in that level of whatever the issue is, that they're needing to disconnect from life, to live it to that degree, that is where we see fentanyl running rampant in the homeless community.
Okay.
Whatever trauma has happened to them, whatever the mental health issue unmedicated is, they are needing to disconnect from back pain times 300
Right.
just to keep
Yeah.
walking it out.
Yep. Interesting. Okay, so on some level, we see the ramp up in kind of the maybe late 90s into the 2000s,
Mhm.
kind of spurred by several industry funded studies that
Yes.
purported to show that medications like Percocet,
Mhm.
uh, OxyContin,
Mhm.
so these were time release opioids
Yes.
that
The pharmaceutical companies were, and families were,
were pushing into the market, saying these are not habit forming,
right?
they're non-addictive
Mhm.
because of the time release component.
Yes.
I mean, of course, you can crush these pills up, and they're
Smoke them,
not
snort them.
time release at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this idea that we can conquer pain once and for all.
Mhm.
We never have to experience pain while we have
Yeah.
access to these non-habit forming, non-addicting substances,
Yeah.
led to
Well, those
doctors
dispensing them to teenagers
for
with a broken bone
right
that
all
wanted to keep
kinds of
playing
crazy
sports.
stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same conversations that doctors were having with housewives in the 50s and 60s with Valium,
Mm,
which was a benzodiazepine. We talked
mm-hmm,
about that earlier.
mm-hmm.
So after Valium, they need something that's not Valium to still be Valium. So then we have Xanax.
Okay.
But then we need something that's not Xanax or Valium to be Xanax and Valium.
Okay.
And it's still that same. Let me take the pain off so I can walk through these situations without making any changes.
Yeah.
Now, in the 50s, you have housewives surrounded from combat veterans coming from World War II.
Yep.
So, though, in my opinion, that's the root issues of everything we're seeing right now in our country.
Okay.
Is the greatest generation, and I believe genuinely, yes, they overthrew the concentration camps.
Mm-hmm.
Then not having the support that we didn't know they needed because of what they saw in combat.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been trying to catch up to the issues that in our country, I believe, started generationally when the veterans coming back from overseas did not have the support they needed. Our country's just gone through the Depression. And then half a generation later, we are sending all of those Depression era kids into combat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like the school lunch program started after World War II
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was like 30% of conscript soldiers had to be turned away from the enlistment board because they were malnourished.
Yes. Right.
And so now the school lunch program has become a political agenda and ploy that was initially instituted for national security.
Mm-hmm.
So that if we ever faced that level of warfare again, we at least knew that we could
Have more
have
potential
more
soldiers
potential soldiers to go
nourished.
to have that strength to carry a machine gun.
Yeah.
And so
Okay, so we see this level of addiction
mhm,
that's coming out of the pill mill era,
yeah,
and the justice system starts getting wise to this whole thing, and these prescribing doctors
mhm,
going after these pill mills and shutting these things down in kind of the late 2000s, early 20 teens. You see most of these pill mills getting ended.
yeah,
And this is when you see the big rise of heroin
yes.
coming to meet the needs of people who are addicted to opioids,
Mhm.
but can't get a prescription for them anymore.
When that happened, do you know what the fastest state to suddenly have a heroin epidemic was?
I would guess Arizona,
Utah.
Utah.
All the Mormon
Okay.
housewives and teenagers hooked on opiates.
Okay.
And that's a very incredibly conservative environment entirely in the state.
Yeah.
At the same time, they also have and still have the highest rising rate in teen suicide.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So what you're talking about when that happened and we have this massive rise in heroin use, and it's all the legal addicts that their insurance company is paying for it.
Mhm.
suddenly falling into criminality that they don't have any street savvy to know how to handle.
Yeah.
And then the Mormons have a very conservative, almost extreme militant view around drug use.
Mm-hmm.
And so now for those individuals, you're dealing with also being ostracized by the only community you've ever known.
Yeah.
For an issue you didn't start, you trusted a doctor
Right.
to help you manage your pain and get back on your feet.
So
And the doctors trusted the pharmaceutical companies and their reps,
right.
saying this is because they're looking at the numbers,
Yeah.
and not the people.
Well, and I guess on some level, like, damage is already done. So now what do? We've got this critical mass of opioid addicts.
Yeah.
That we don't really know what to do with anymore. I mean, we don't have sufficient treatment capacity to deal with this. And so we wind up with people who are now quite often winding up in addiction and then homelessness.
Yes.
Because of this whole situation. But we've also got a predatory cartel system that's taking advantage of this addiction rate to provide heroin and then ultimately fentanyl.
I probably would not say cartel too loud in this neighborhood.
Okay.
While we're walking.
Got it. This is one of those neighborhoods.
Yes, it is.
Understood.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Like but how does someone become a predator? They're a victim at first that wants to exert control over their past pain.
Well, I guess maybe on some level,
yeah.
As an individual working for the big C, let's call it.
Yes, big C.
Yeah. But I mean, these big C's as
it's
actual
a family
organizations.
Business. Yeah, just like the mafia in New England.
See an opportunity for profit motive. And so, okay. One of the big questions that I've had that has kind of come up while I've been doing this border and migration coverage is looking at the amount of money that the cartels, big C, seem to be making on what I'm calling migration number 2, which is richer people flying into northern Mexican airports and paying tens of thousands of dollars to get crossed into the United States with minimal hassle.
Yeah.
So, making on the order of billions of dollars a month from this migration traffic, and all of a sudden now being flush with cash.
Yeah.
That seems to me to possibly be one reason why they may not have to rely on,
like a bait and switch, pay attention to the drugs instead of the people we're bringing across your border?
Potentially, but also if they had previously been super reliant on drug revenues, let's say, to run their organizations, and now all of a sudden they have a new hyper revenue source, and now they don't need to make as much money off of drugs, then you have some options on how to do your drug thing. Maybe you lower the price of drugs. Maybe that's what we're seeing. On some level. Is it to get more people addicted? It kind of seems like
you have to have a market for your wares.
Yes.
And so now there's no way to know what you said, immigrant population 2, these businessmen paying larger sums of cash to be brought across the border with minimal hassle, right? So what we have to, not to get into a sidebar, but when you look at, say, national security issues, and then you look at societal stability issues, and you look at the enemies to America, and at some point is a question of who would desire to destabilize our society and make a profit off that? Well, the cartel would love to. And so are there other things at play? And I have no way to know, but it is one of the questions to ask. Are there other things at play that they're just producing the market for when something that they're aware of is trying to come into our country, that they're assisting in coming across our borders? They then have their sustainment when the time comes, whatever that may be, to increase those prices. And so they're not going to suffer a change of cash flow, because if ever the border issues are addressed appropriately, which will take a response from both sides and not just one, then politically, It'll take a diplomat instead of a politician.
Sure.
But with the complexity of the issues, the cartel's not worried about what happens in America. They may be aware of things that you and I couldn't possibly be aware of, but they're not going to hurt if they suddenly have to jack the price of fentanyl.
Correct, because they control supply.
Yes.
And
So they're building demand right now.
okay. By getting addicts more and more addicted to fentanyl
Yes.
and methamphetamines,
Yes.
kind of driving maybe
Yeah.
some amount of heroin and cocaine out of the market by
Right.
giving them synthetic-based drugs to get addicted to that they can more
Mhm.
easily control the supply of.
Right. And then the CIA can't track it. Because look at the poppy fields. We know where they are.
Right. Okay.
We tried to regulate the combat in Vietnam with Agent Orange.
Right.
We can look from aerial views and see what people are growing.
Yeah.
You can look at the marijuana industry in California
Right.
that initially was illicit,
Right.
and you could smell a weed field from several miles away. You don't need a drug dog for that.
Right.
But then it's legalized.
Right.
So we can't take the response of conversation topics from the 80s to address a deeper severity of issue a generation and a half later.
Yeah.
But we also have to start addressing things. And one, it's accepting the depth of issues and how do we respond in healthy ways as a community.
So then you would potentially put your money on why the cartels are pushing so many drugs into the United States. We're watching the fallout, especially with the homeless community.
Yes.
And the potential, maybe prime reason for this is to more deeply embed addiction in this homelessness population.
Yes.
Okay. Or just maybe
They're just in the population.
Right.
And by the time you're entrenched in that level of addiction,
Okay.
you have no ability to sustain any amount of your life.
Okay. So that should the migration get shut off at some point, they've got money in the bank to play with in terms of, okay, we'll start increasing, and there's no ability to like quickly cold turkey off of 40 blues a day to nothing.
No. It's like when Suboxone and methadone were created, they were thought to be horrible ideas. Now they're a necessity for someone coming off that level of fentanyl addiction because their entire body is reconnecting to life in every step.
Yes.
And so it takes a responsible Suboxone or methadone clinic to get them to a tolerable dose, let them sustain that for 30 to 60 days, and then taper them down. But what you see again, and it's the root of it being the money and the financials of it, I've heard many stories just in the time here in Phoenix of individuals on Suboxone, on methadone, going to a clinic and say, hey, things are coming together. I'd like to see how I do on a tapered dose. And then the physician has a conversation with them and convinces them that what they really need in managing life successfully already is a higher dose of methadone. And so you're seeing that same perpetrator, money-driven mentality in unethical medical clinics.
Okay, what would be the impetus for the doc to want to prescribe more methadone?
They get money.
Oh, I see.
If they have a dependent client that's come, so their motive then is money instead of first do no harm, which is the first line of the Hippocratic Oath that medical students take year one medical school.
Wow, okay. Man, there's so many layers to this.
I know. I mean, when you're talking about the bottom of the barrel society issues that we all see, and you're like, how does someone end up like that?
Right.
But on the other side of it, among my peers in the community, where the system has benefited them, or they were one of the fortunate ones that had quality care their entire journey out of it.
Right.
Or like me, the resilience to just at least be still until a situation passed and a healthy exit became available.
Mhm. Sure.
It's so, um,
Do you see the situation that we're in now being able to be sufficiently addressed to where there's an off ramp to kind of this homelessness, mental health crisis, drug addiction issue that lies outside of figuring out how to solve how cheap drugs are becoming? I mean, if you've got access to 50-cent blues,
yeah.
is this an addiction crisis that you're ever going to see the end of?
Well, we would need God to move powerfully in our country for that to happen. That's the only answer I know to that. I've been um, uh, in need of the system for 20 years. It was God showing up powerfully in my life that finally helped me
Mm-hmm.
where the system couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the only answer I have to that is we would need God to move very powerfully in our country, which he's done in the past,
Mm-hmm.
not in any of our current generations, but he has. Um, we need a societal miracle.
Okay.
That's the only thing that would rapidly change anything, is a massive awakening to the Father's heart instead of the legalism of how you're supposed to be living your life right now.
Okay. 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 The the levels of addiction that we're seeing currently
Mm-hmm.
just seem to me to be unconquerable
They are?
unless we can find a way to address what's happening,
Yeah.
and on some level, I don't know if the relative inexpensiveness of drugs and their availability
Yeah.
just makes this a completely intractable problem,
Yeah.
or if there is a way out of this without addressing what's happening with the cartels.
Well, you kind of have to look at it from a very strategic perspective, which I am not sure that anyone in our country at levels of leadership, and I don't mean that just politically, I mean within the Christian structure as well,
Okay.
within the medical structure as well,
Yeah.
within the educational structure as well. I don't know of anyone in our country that has a level of leadership to look at the issues strategically with true compassion and wanting to serve the country rather than serve their own ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And so currently, you never know next time, but we have to, leaders at levels, what it's either going to take is an aspect of, hopefully some aspect of peaceable revolution for reformers like myself to be placed in certain positions where ethics, compassion, and real world experience drive the strategy, and willing to work with individuals that right now society said I should not work with. For instance, some of the most empathetic veterans to work with other veterans are transgender individuals.
Mm.
And they're phenomenal in the mental health field and having really endured empathy
Mm-hmm.
to sit in the trenches with someone
Mm-hmm.
and literally talk them off the ledge.
Mm.
But do you know of any faith-based organizations that would allow that individual to come help them save someone else's life?
Interesting. Okay. Okay. On some level, it's hard to find people to reach certain populations unless they're already in that population.
Yeah.
And can reach out from a standpoint of, hey, I know what you're going through.
Yeah. For me, I never experienced true homelessness, but I did have some street savvy from the family I grew up in, but also then my choices that led to addiction later, which my addictions didn't start with alcohol. They started with a psychiatrist giving me Ativan to help me be able to discharge from an inpatient psychiatric hospital with extreme anxiety to go home.
Mhm.
No one ever asked me, are you safe at home?
Mhm.
No one asked me, what's your home life like? And explained to me what domestic violence was.
Mhm.
The initial diagnosis I had was general anxiety disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, interesting. Interesting. And so it's largely these types of experiences that you've had that help inform how you're able to
Yeah.
help other people within mental health field at this point.
And also not just the experiences I've had, but the experiences I know that they've had. Because when you're in active addiction, you
Mhm.
can have that trauma talk that's you don't have an ability to have in a counselor's office. Whatever you've just smoked or snorted or inhaled or injected, whatever it is, there's an aspect of disconnect. And so just in active addiction, the stories of trauma that I have heard others share with me, because there was enough of a disconnect for them to be honest,
Yeah.
without it inducing a panic response of, are you going to believe me? Are you going to discredit my truth?
Yeah.
I have shared things in therapist's office that were so atrocious, like certified trauma specialists, that they had that initial disbelief. Does that really happen in our country?
Yeah. Okay.
And for someone coming to a professional for help,
Yeah.
no matter how hard they try to not have that reaction,
Yeah.
if they have that, it is so detrimental
Okay.
to someone's journey,
Okay.
because it just breaks any aspect of trust
Yeah.
that's been built.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It's that trust that's necessary
Yeah.
to invite them into the journey
Yes.
forward.
Yes.
It's also complicated, right?
It is. It really is. There's an aspect of it's a move within the mental health field is where it started, and it's approaching into the medical industry slowly.
Yeah.
And it's called trauma-informed care.
Okay.
Basically, understanding you don't know anyone's backstory. So don't attribute their emotional reactions or inabilities. Don't assume they've had the same life you have.
Yeah.
Don't base their outsides on what's going on internally for them. I had a friend in Georgia that's a PhD professor at one of the medical colleges out there. She was adjunct staff at the military hospital, helping their family practice residents. And so she invited me to come talk to these year 1, year 2 family practice residents about my experience as a domestic violence survivor on a military base, and kind of the ingrained attitude on that base that really covered up the domestic violence. And in the peak of Iraq and Afghanistan, left him mission ready, but then provided no services to our family when he did not know how to turn off combat
Yeah.
when he came home.
Yeah.
And so I talked about those experiences of where, what I'd been through as a kid kept me from knowing how to make relationship choices as an adult. And then those decisions at 18 to marry him, and he joins the military and goes over to combat, and then he had no ability to know how to turn combat off.
Yeah.
And I'm able to say that to a room full of medical professionals 20 years later in the military. That was, for me, a very empowering moment in my journey. That was really the first time I'd been allowed that honesty to say the system failed me. And as I was sharing that, and then I did a bit of a Q&A with these medical professionals, and one of them asked me, he said, if you had had intervention years earlier, because there were a lot of events at once, kind of orchestrated beyond my control, that I give God credit for. But what really shook me was needing to have open heart surgery because of not treating my physical health, because I wasn't having treatment for my mental health and trauma. And I had a primary care doctor call me into her office a few weeks before having open heart surgery that I'd known several months I needed, and expressed a concern that I did not have the support at home from my partner at the time to recover from open heart surgery.
Mm.
And that conversation produced a new thought process to acknowledge the violence then that I was still accepting in my life, but I still wasn't ready to make those changes for a year and a half because of the more urgent changes that I had to make in learning to finally live with heart disease and get sober.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a change I was immediately ready for, but it was a change I made. And so this doctor asked if someone had had that conversation with you in your first marriage, do you think your life would be very different today? And I said, absolutely.
Okay.
But no one knew to have that conversation, was enabled to have that conversation. Well, that medical clinic instituted changes immediately.
Mm.
And the very next day, a wife, my friend let me know, a wife in domestic violence on the military base was asked, are you safe at home?
Mm-hmm.
And she broke down in front of the medical provider. They connected her to domestic violence services. They got her to shelter. They put a restraining order in place between her and her abuser in the service. They connected her to services. It's going to be more with an empathetic voice of healing that can bring light upon these issues to kind of rally the country into a different level of awakening of like, we have to help our neighbor again.
Yeah.
At the root of it, we have to help our neighbor again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then knowing how, because it's not like running up to a stray dog and let me help you and bring you home with me. Because that's not healthy. That's not being a neighbor. These individuals on our sidewalks are someone's child, someone's mother or father.
Right.
They have a family somewhere looking for them, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
They don't know what safety is.
Yeah.
They don't know what a safe relationship is. They don't know anymore how to make decisions for themselves. By the time they're homeless in a fentanyl addiction, their mind is locked and ingrained in maintaining their fentanyl addiction.
Right. It's a brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
They're operating at usually a substantially reduced capacity of what we would just consider normal, everyday thought.
Right.
You know, and one of the things that I noticed with Bobby after our first day together, the next day, we wound up going out for something to eat, and I realized just how hungry he was.
Yeah.
But then after he got some food in him, sufficient amounts of calories, like so much about his behavior and personality changed.
Yeah.
He wasn't in panic mode anymore.
Right.
You know, it was.
If you can start, so a lot of the faith-based moves, well, I'll leave it at that do like street outreach. They might bring a grill and maybe some low-cost steaks and tell them who Jesus is. Invite them to the altar, say the sinner's prayer. God's got you now. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
That's the equivalent of going to a trauma center, okay, with a gunshot wound. And it may not have hit an artery, but you're still bleeding. And so they take a field medics pack and they take what the military would use and they put like the pellets that absorb everything, you know, and they pack the wound and then they say, come back in a week and we'll put dressing on it. We have a lot of people that are wanting the world to catch up to the church structure. And we have a complete inability of the church system. And I say this from a pastor's heart of just sheer frustration right now, that are unable to help a gentleman like this. You know, how would you strike a conversation up with him that would build trust and endear confidence in anything you have to say?
Right, right. Especially if it appears that you're approaching that conversation with a particular angle to try and get something specific out of them.
And if you're not, we have to understand kind of what the labels of society are, so we know how to address the issues. But one of the things I did genuinely like about the last place I worked was kind of their stance. People are not a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
And we have so many that probably are incredibly fatigued from generations of looking at the issues, that they're experiencing extreme compassion fatigue.
I see.
And and I get it. I do, because I was one of them perpetuating the compassion fatigue.
Sure.
And I've had to learn how to deal with that in my own life now, wanting to help these individuals.
Right. Right.
But you can't look at them and how do I solve their problems so that they are better? Because then you're creating a checkbox solution. And you have to look at the most urgent of needs, and that fluctuates in their journey.
Yeah. Right. Right. So in the circumstance of somebody like Bobby, I mean, just brass tacks, what do you think his chances are? Occasional meth user, apparently mostly out of boredom,
Yeah.
really mostly unwilling to reach out for any serious help. He's really tried to isolate himself from other people
Yeah.
so that he can't be taken advantage of. But from what I can see, he's on a downward trajectory.
Yeah.
Life's getting harder for Bobby.
Yeah.
Especially as
those are the good.
perpetual hunger is taking a toll on his body.
Yeah.
And I mean,
in addiction, anyone that's gotten their life together has that moment of the downward decline where something began to shift. For
Yeah.
me, I'm still able to work. I still had a career working for a corporation, but not the same ones anymore.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that meant I was okay, even though I was living in a weekly motel for several months at that point, and I would pay rent.
Like this.
Yes, like this, very much like this.
Yeah.
Only I thought it was fancy because I'm in Maine and there's a 2-lane highway and then the Penobscot River. And so I had a nice backyard view.
I see.
In addiction that was not a state hospital. And so I was upper class, low trash. In addiction is what my mind told me. And so I could pay 2 weeks of rent with each check.
Yeah.
And give everything else to the drug dealers.
Yeah.
I had a moment of clarity. I'm chain smoking a 4th cigarette and am reading the Surgeon General's warning on my box of cigarettes and realizing the people that I'm surrounding myself with active heart disease, knowing I'm not treating heart disease, are more concerned about my cigarette smoking than any of the other substances that I was ingesting and smoking. They were only concerned about cigarettes. And I had this moment of clarity. I looked at the sky and I said, God, I have no idea what you think of me. And I have no idea what I think of you. But I'm going to die before I find out. Help.
Wow.
And he showed up, not in that moment, but that began a series of events in my life to run completely out of my own every ability. And
That
God
was
was
the
still
turning
there.
point.
That was the turning point.
Yeah. Wow.
But what we want, because we have like this motto within the church of instant salvation, and we don't teach sanctification. And how do you disciple someone in their initial 5-year journey from salvation at the altar to sanctification through life in a journey with Jesus Christ? And shorten this because I know not everybody wants to hear about that, but it's part of the issue.
Sure.
We want that microwavable gospel message that just changes someone's life. But the system in our country isn't geared for these individuals to have that level of. And even if you have someone that has a gift of healing prayers, or they have a gift of, profoundly touching someone, that still doesn't turn off the pain of life that for them reconnects every 6 months for the first 2.5 years. And they have to then readjust.
Okay. Well, Rachel, holy cow. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Can we talk again?
Yes.
There's like so many story threads
To go off
that,
with that.
yeah, you're such a wealth of knowledge. Your background, your knowledge of the history and theory behind all of this.
Yeah.
There's so much more that I want to know about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
As I dig into kind of what's happening with homelessness, with drug addiction, with kind of the cartel element. One of the things that I'm doing is putting together a database of historical drug pricing that goes back 20, 25 years to kind of show how the cartels are using drug pricing and availability to change what's happening within the addict population.
Okay.
And then to be able to track that with also what's happening with homelessness and stuff, I think could be really interesting.
We have to understand that there's no issue singular to itself.
Right.
It's just like with type 2 diabetes. A healthy individual like yourself is not just going to develop type 2 diabetes.
Right.
Whereas I go to my doctor at the beginning of the year and I've begun making changes in my life, in my recovery journey for my physical health. And she lets me know I'm at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And she's ready to have the whole conversation with me of drastic changes I need to make. And I'm like, well, let me tell you what I'm already doing as an informed member of the healthcare field. And tell her about the changes I'm making in my diet and my exercise. And she's like, that's exactly what you need to do. Come back in 3 months. We'll rerun the lab work. And then you keep doing those things. But this isn't an issue like type 2 diabetes where you change a few things and you have a healthy life.
Right.
Because this, like addiction, trauma, domestic violence, any of these issues involve and you're rebuilding your community while grieving the absence of your community of origin or your family of origin.
Yeah.
And that's a grief that doesn't ever fully go away.
Yeah.
You just learn to carry it differently.
Yeah.
I think one of the things hardest for me is individuals that haven't had to endure these hard things, that have genuine good hearts and want to help the issues, but won't have these types of gut level, honest conversations. And they want to create the cookie cutter formulas of helping.
Right. And ultimately, if there's one thing that kind of mental health, what this integrated healthcare approach has shown is that nothing's simple, everything's individual.
Everything is an individual aspect. And then understanding like what are the issues to be talking about, and that is, are they still engaged in helping themselves?
Yeah.
Because you can't carry someone through a recovery journey.
Right.
They have to want to help themselves. And a lot of people understand that, but what they don't realize is where they're smothering the issues, when if they helped in the right ways, they could contribute to the solution even without actively being a part of it. There are ways to contribute to the issues without actively being parts of boots on the ground.
Yeah. Okay. In helping the people who are out there doing it.
Yeah.
Doing the hard yards. Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.